of his tongue. He spat, rose and followed the trail of wolf blood to the edge of the glade, then stood there peering into the murk. Brecker walked up to his spear, the blade half sunk, into a pine tree and tried to pull it free. His body strained, but the spear didn't move. He looked up at Orca. Grey-green eyes and a pale, muddied face, a straight nose and strong jaw framed with crow-black hair, so much like his father, and the opposite of her, apart from his eyes. He had Orca's eyes. "I missed," he said, his shoulders slumping. Orca gripped the shaft in her gloved hand and tugged the spear free. "Yes," she said, as she handed Brecker his spear, half an arm shorter than hers and Thorkel's. "It was not your fault," Thorkel said from the glade's edge. He was still staring into the gloom, a thick braid of black-grey streaked hair poking from beneath his woolen null-binding cap, his nose twitching. "The fell wolf startled them." "Why didn't it kill any of those reindeer?" Brecker asked, as he took his short spear back from Orca. Thorkel lifted his hand, showing bloodied fingertips. "It was wounded, not thinking about its supper." "What did that to a fell wolf?" Brecker asked. A silence. Orca strode to the opposite end of the glade, her spear ready as she regarded the dark hole in the undergrowth from where the wolf had emerged. She paused, cocked her head, a faint sound drifting through the woodland like mist. Screams. Brecker joined her. He gripped his spear with both hands and pointed into the darkness. "Thorkel," Orca grunted, twisting to look over her shoulder at her husband. He was still staring after the wounded wolf. With a last, lingering look and shake of his fur-draped shoulders, he turned and strode towards her. More screams, faint and distant. Orca shared a look with Thorkel. "Asgrim's steading lies that way," she said. "Harek," Brecker said, referring to Asgrim's son. Brecker had played with him on the beach at Fellur, on the occasions when Orca and Thorkel had visited the village to trade for provisions. Another scream, faint and ethereal through the trees. "Best we take a look," Thorkel muttered. "Heya," Orca grunted her agreement. Their breath misted about them in clouds as they worked their way through the pine woods, the ground thick and soft with needles. It was spring, signs of new life in the world below, but winter still clung to these wooded hills, like a hunched old warrior refusing to let go of his past. They walked in file, Orca leading, her eyes constantly shifting between the wolf-carved path they were following and the deep shadows around them. Old, ice-crusted snow crunched underfoot as trees opened up, and they stepped onto a ridge. Steep cliffs falling away sharply to the west, ragged strips of cloud drifting across the open sky below them. Orca glanced down and saw reed-thin columns of hearth-fire smoke rising from Fellur, far below. The fishing village sat nestled on the eastern edge of a deep blue-black fjord, the calm waters shimmering in the pale sun. Gulls swirled and called. "Orca," Thorkel said, and she stopped, turned. Thorkel was unstoppering a leather water bottle and handing it to Brecker, who, despite the chill, was flushed and sweating. "His legs aren't as long as yours." Thorkel smiled through his beard, the scar from cheek to jaw giving his mouth a twist. Orca looked back up the trail. They were following and listened. She had heard no more screams for a while now, so she nodded to Thorkel and reached for her own water bottle. They sat on a boulder for a few moments, looking out over the land of green and blue, like gods upon the crest of the world. To the south, the fjord, beyond Fellur, spilled into the sea. A ragged coastline curling west and then south, ribbed and scarred with deep fjords and inlets. Iron-grey clouds bunched over the sea, glowing with the threat of snow. Far to the north, a green-sloped, snow-topped mountain range